Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ASL Revenge Battles, a replay of the best matches from ASL Season 14. I am Diggity once again on behalf of StarCastTV. This time we've got Snow going up against Soma. So Snow, in the round of 16, ended up in a group of death with the top 3 Zergs, in my estimation, in the form of in the form of Soma, Queen, and wow, I'm forgetting the third, which is bad. Sulky being the third Zerg in that grouping. Yet, a lot of people considered up to that stage Snow's versus Zerg to be the weakest of his 3 matchups, and maybe a vulnerable point. However, Snow ended up winning out and made it through top position. One could make arguments that it was a factor that he only had to practice one matchup, things along those lines, but regardless, it shows a vast improvement in Snow's versus Zerg play to complement his already ferocious versus Terran. So we're going to have a best of 7 in this set. We're going to go ahead and start things off on Allegro. Starting in the upper left-hand corner, we have Soma starting as the teal Zerg. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Snow as the yellow Protoss. Smaller rush distances on Allegro, a remake of Largo, a little bit wider mid-map position. You've got the ramps for interesting mid-game control and engagements. Soma actually mentioned in the pre-game interview that he didn't feel very confident in his versus Protoss, that in the recent fluctuations in the meta, that he was struggling to find his new style of play. That may be because there have been fluctuations in the 973. It feels like most Zerg have pushed back towards more 3-hatch Muta styles. But it seems like Soma has been experimenting with some form of half-dedicated 973 where he wants to be able to press with initial Hydralisks, force a bunch of defenses, and then macro up heavily in turn after that, while all of those defenses are being dropped without overcommitting. Snow has countered that just by being an absolute nuisance all over the map, with zealots, with harassment. In fact, Soma was trying to do some wild adjustments and experimentation to get some form of 5-hatch Hydralisk play, it looked like, in his match in ASL, and Snow just stymied it on multiple fronts, catching the edge of the Overlord right there, and going to continue along the path up to the north. We do see it looks like a 12-hatch build from Soma. It's already got that initial hatchery down, another drone making its way out to scout himself, mirroring that probe. And actually interesting drone getting out of the way because of Snow, maybe to respect the ferocity of initial probe harassment. That spawning tool does drop. You could see Snow was looking up to engage it and maybe create some interruption. Soma's Overlord able to spot the initial Zealot being produced. And look at this, Snow going for a gas steal. Not sure I've seen gas steal against Zerg too often. This could be a nod to the matches in ASL where it was 3-hatch gasless, but this could also be, or 3-hatch gasless attempt, I believe, my memory serves, but this could also be just to try to curb that build order to a 3-hatch before gas opener. Maybe open up things for Snow, knowing that that gas is coming at a much later 230 mark rather than 231. We already do see another drone making its way out to grab that 3rd hatchery. A couple of the drones, oh, actually cancellation on gas, so showing that and then going for the cancellation. Looks like Snow's going to grab his hatchery, then initial Zealot making its way out. No Zerglings produced as of yet. Zealot getting some initial hits on that drone, trying to buy some time, but wow, these are going to be very late Zerglings, so the Zealots are going to get some free shots. So now Soma's going to have to pull some drone defense. 2 of the drones already weak, doing a pretty good job of hiding and protecting. This one taking a shot. And now the Zealot and Probe going to go ahead and retreat to the lines. In the meantime, 12 o'clock base has that 3rd hatchery. Snow sidling up to go ahead and attack drones over that wall, if he can. Now that gas being dropped at a much, much later 319 mark. The Zealot going to get surrounded out of position. The Probe able to slip out, though. That's actually fantastic for Snow. So yes, the Zealot gets taken care of, but the Probe able to wander back out, and maybe is going to be able to make its way to the 12 o'clock location to confirm that 3rd base. Zerglings making a beeline towards the natural expansion. Forge has not yet been built. 2 Zealots going to need to blockade with that Probe to make this a clear plug. Overlord out in front. There was just a single probe on gas. Now 3 probes moving into gas. I presume to go ahead and get a Stargate in place. I believe in the meantime that probe was able to identify that hatchery at the 12 o'clock location. The Zerglings blockading the ramp to deny information. It looks like it is going to be a Hydralisk den down for Soma, so maybe going to opt for it. And the thing is on Largo with such a wide expansion and close rush distances, 973 or Hydralisk opener isn't terrible to begin with. I'm actually a little bit shocked that Snow went for a gas steal and spent the resources maybe to try to push Soma more of this direction. We'll see if he gets good looks at the drone saturation to get confirmation. I believe he's going to expect that regardless. 2 Zealots chasing down Zerglings initially and going to make their way out on the map to wreak additional havoc. And the Zealots in the dark like this are really the key to the Protoss mid-game. Right now pocketing the Zerglings, trying to find some information. A 3rd Zealot making their way up, and you can see between these 3 Zealots and this probe, they might be able to breach one of these locations, attack some drones, create a little bit of havoc, or at least force more Zerglings to be produced. 8 Zerglings currently. That Zealot actually making its way back. A photon cannon being placed, +1 weapons. The 3 Zealots hanging out in mid-ground. The probe confirming the 4 drones to the north there. The Zerglings moving out of position. Some decent troop movement there from Soma. So dedicating the Zerglings to the north, but also fanning out these Zerglings to the south to try to catch the Zealots should they shoot for the gap. And Snow just backing up. Otherwise, Stargate producing that initial Corsair, Citadel of Adun being constructed as well. This probe has stayed alive this entire time. It actually missed that it got a kill, so it looks like it, I believe, got a drone kill earlier. Kind of curious when I missed that. And the initial Hydralisks are starting to take the field. We do see that 4th hatchery being placed, and I expect a 5th at the 12 o'clock location shortly. Zerglings fanning out absolutely everywhere, trying to see if there are some units out. And this is kind of the style that we've seen Soma play. So emergency cannons dropped by Snow to defend against that 973, but quite often what we've seen from Soma is not a dedication. So initial Hydralisks are here to break down this front, just get the initial damage done, take out the front photon cannons, force a little bit, and try to heavily drone to do some economic catch-up behind this. So initial Hydralisk taking position, one of them a little bit out of position, so taking some damage. It looks like the Corsair is going to be able to move up, has taken a bit of damage, but is going to be able to confirm drone saturation and tech behind this. Can be absolutely critical as far as recognizing, especially having this Corsair in position to see whether additional, how many Hydralisks are reinforcing. A Hydralisk busting and able to get a cannon to follow things up. Still a slew of Zealots out on the front. Their +1 weapons is probably going to have to be canceled here, however. And there should be enough cannons and Zealots to keep Soma back. And it looks like he has not transitioned, so I was expecting the transition point. Looks like he's actually mutating the layer there at the 12 o'clock location. Corsair sees it and sees the hatchery there as well. But now we're seeing, yeah, you can see the probe, the drone count starting to filter in at each location. So right as he's able to take out some infrastructure on the front, actually putting Snow in the red briefly, and forcing a lot of cannons defensively in the rear, droning up heavily to try to take a mid-game economic and tech lead. Corsair getting a good look at the drone saturation at the natural expansion and the main, making sure that no additional Hydralisks are being produced, which should allow a gateway flood from Snow. The Zealots moving out, clearing out the Zerglings. Good take. Looks like they have Zealot leg speed and able to get a goods round. This is the problem for Soma in many of these matchups, is sometimes he plays thin on that defense and sometimes it's a little bit too thin. And so he ends up in these situations where he doesn't quite have the sufficient defense, or sometimes he overextends it, where he doesn't have quite enough defense to deal with attacks out on the front. Right now, I think he's hoping that these Zealots commit to this 12 o'clock location, maybe overextend, the Spire being constructed there, Evolution Chamber bringing on +2 spines, and maybe go for, a back-end hit with the Hydralisk, box him in, Snow not falling for it there, so doing a little bit of disruption, re-engaging, able to get 1 kill, and pulling the Zealots out otherwise. Because the one thing he does not want is to lose pressure on Soma. In the meantime, 2 Corsairs and a Zealot maybe going to shoot the gap with the natural expansion as the Hydralisks are being drawn out. However, we do also have a shuttle being constructed, and that Zealot actually able to peek all the way up to the natural expansion. Seeing additional Hydralisks being produced, so yeah, confirming that Soma was in fact investing in Hydralisks and not in drones there. The Zealots swinging back around. to again, as the Hydrals moving out of position, yeah, you can see constantly threatening, so those Hydrals can't dedicate to a contained situation at the natural expansion. A few of them losing their lives, but it looks like they are going to be able to exit out to the right. The Overlord trying to create some swing, but this is also, as those Hydrals are being drawn out towards the eastern borders, we have 2 Dark Templar being dropped in the main. An Overlord is rushing to position, but there's nothing else to defend, so this is going to be drone losses in Soma's main. Hydrals now taking position, but not before First Blood has been solidified. The drones trying to defend themselves, but a lot of economic disruption, and Soma's drone count dropping. Pretty solid defense regardless. The Zealots at that right-hand location looking to make it back out in the field. High Templar now on the front, more Zealots marching their way out. Overlord's been killed somewhere out in the field, putting Soma in the red. Corsair's still being very active, and you can just see this is what I was talking about for Snow in the mid-game, which has been a drastic improvement over previous seasons, where he is active everywhere with the multi-pronged attacks really creating frustration for Soma. Soma now trying to commit to a front door contain. Does have to worry about potential Psystorm drops to follow things up. And he doesn't have quite, after that last harassment, doesn't have the worker count to keep up with Snow. Snow moving out with the Zealots a little bit, underestimating that attack force a little bit, so taking some damage. Is going to be able to exit with the rest of his units. The 3 Zealots sprinting up, wanting to draw some troops back, maybe force some additional troops to be constructed, making their way towards that 3rd base. Hydrals there to greet, and the Zealots now going to back out after some additional force production. Soma grabbing a 4th base. Now Snow needs to think about, looks like he's got some Scourge waiting alongside to intercept that shuttle. The shuttle currently empty, but does get sniped. Nice play. Allows Soma to relax a little bit more. Close on supplies. Snow's just up by an inkling. Now things looking dangerous for Snow, because as Soma's taking his 4th base, he still hasn't moved into position to grab his 3rd. He's got a sizable Hydralist force outside his natural expansion. The Zealots still active. Look at this. These Zealots have been absolute heroes. Again, making their way to the north. I don't think they're going to get much out of this otherwise. +1 weapons there, but Snow starting to move out as Soma cycling out of position a little bit mid-map. But yeah, it's going to be trouble for Snow, as yes, he has a bit of a supply lead. He's got +1 weapons out there. He's got a bit of Psystorm, but he needs the Psystorms to be brilliant here in order to negate this Hydralist army. And brilliant storms it is. Huge Psystorm on Soma's staging point right there, obliterating and weakening multiple Hydralists. And that one Psystorm actually might be sufficient to allow him to sneak up, but no, Soma is engaging with more attack troops. He's got another grouping of Hydralists moving in, so more Psystorms are going to be needed. A bit of a whiff with that one. Pincer attack from the north. Great Psystorm hitting the northern Hydralisks, and it looks like some more Psystorm going to blanket the Hydralists to the east. So the Dragoons, insufficient numbers, now pushing in to engage the troops to the right. Reinforcements going to make their way across as well. And the Hydralist force falls, which means Snow is going to be able to critically secure his 3rd base. Corsair has also been active behind this, although no, able to sneak out. A lot of bases up. Snow not out of the woods yet, +2 weapons, just about to finish. But a big critical moment where Snow able to get that 3rd base, trying to rebuild a shuttle so maybe he can get some additional Psystorm drops out. Only sitting on a single forge upgrades. So upgrades going to be pretty even. I like that the Corsair is kind of scouting things out, looking for drop locations. Again, getting a good look at drone saturation. These 2 Zealots that have been active, feels like the entire game, sneaking back in, able to get some additional drone kills as a Mutalisk spawns. And right now, this could be danger because there is a lack of Corsair in the air. And with a sudden tech switch, Soma could strike either the natural expansion with a cannon warp in, or potentially the main, which does have 2 cannons, but only a single Corsair producing. Hydralisk driving the army back from the mid position, opening up the Hydralisks to be unassailed across mid position. They're not going to have to eat Psystorm. That cannon morphing. The shuttle is going to take off with a single Dark Templar. Maybe go for some counter damage. That cannon canceled, and some probes getting raked. The Mutalists pulling back, though, upon seeing that shuttle. They're going to go ahead and try to pick that off. The Dark Templar, is it even going to escape? Drops. Now getting assaulted. But critically, this is buying time for 2 cannons to morph in. And maybe some, yeah, the reinforcements repositioning to potentially deal with those Mutalisks as they make their way back across. No big loss for Soma, though. He can still use those Mutalisks to try to pick off the High Templar that are pocketed mid-map, and you can see just surrounded by those Dragoons in the meantime. Of course, they're moving up, having some trouble. Sidestorm misses all the probes, but also misses the Mutalisks right there, so more probe damage. Another Sidestorm catches just the latter end of those Mutalisks, and now they're going to approach the main. There are probes and cannons there to kill. However, there's not a lot of minerals to disrupt otherwise. Hydro sneaking down, dodging out of another Sidestorm, so a lot of Sidestorm being expended, but the Dragoon count growing. Plenty of cannons here at that third, and Snow at least able to buy himself some security there. Big attack force, though. Soma all of a sudden with the worker lead, with the supply lead, which is usually a bad situation overall. +1 armor has kicked on line, which will make those Templar a little bit more resilient to troops in between. The Mutalisk count still sizable, so there could still be a backstab situation. Snow is checking out that 6 o'clock location, being escorted out by that Zergling, which is spotted, and additionally those Scourges, actually Zealots, taking care of that, moving back in, and Soma actually getting caught as those Hydralisks going midline. Sidestorm to the right. High Templar being assassinated left and right. More Sidestorm being dropped on the Hydrals to the north. And it looks like, so high ground disadvantage from the left, and not enough troops to get through the pure Dragoon force. The Zealot coming up to support, and again, not a great fight, because I believe this is high ground to low ground from the left, plus the Sidestorm to boot. So Snow once again winning a huge critical battle mid-map. And that gives him both the supply lead. The Hydral's going to try to sweep across, maybe find some High Templar, but going to get caught in between. It looks like not the shot not getting taken, but that allows that 6 o'clock base to get established. In response, Soma grabbing top right, has peaks at that 9 o'clock as well, but Snow's on the move, perhaps recognizing what a big win it was, because huge supply swing in his advantage. Massive supply, more High Templar being constructed. I wonder if he's going to get aggressive with it. He does have the cannon secured here, just establishing the cannon line at the 6 o'clock. Maybe wants to wait for that to finish before he makes any additional moves. No additional shuttles, but even if there were, it looks like there's good Overlord coverage mid-map. Snow holding the southern edge, the southwest edge here. Hydros now positioning into this. They do have +2 weapons. Eating Sidestorm front for their effort. Going to try to again take the low ground attack from 2 angles. Splitting this attack force. The Dragoons and Zealots running down the Hydros from that right-hand side. I don't know if that was a cohesive attack group on even fronting, if that would have even been a win for Soma right there. So still has the economic lead overall. Is establishing an additional base. 4 bases, soon to be 5 base Zerg versus what will be 3 with just a little bit of minerals left there. Archon being added to the attack front just in case there was a move towards Hive. We do not see any transition towards Hive tech. Someone wants to get it done on that tier, I want to call it 2.5 before Hive, the level 2 Hydralist weapons. It is make or break. That means he needs to assault that 6 o'clock base or wipe out this army or both to really make it happen. I have not seen any lurkers out of this state at the mid game. Maybe the Mutalisks eating that supply count. 20 supply lead for Snow, considerable. Good amount of Sidestorm, I believe, left. The Zealots sneaking up, finding some Hydralists there to the north. Snow repositioning, finding some Hydralists that were trying to reposition across that midfield. The Zealots going to rejoin that army. A few Hydralists getting picked off here and there. Big supply lead now for Snow, where he can potentially start bowling these units around. I'm wondering if he's waiting for that +2 armor to kick in before he pushes any of these engagements. His natural expansion has been expended, so he's back down to 2 bases. Upper right-hand base is running and starting to saturate for Soma. And now Snow, with the Hydralisks actually top right, we're expecting an attack maybe at that location, a little bit out of position, to engage a hefty attack force at that 4th. Snow pushing through the gap again with the brilliant Psystorms on the rest position of these Hydralisks. Soma has just been eating lightning in the face all day. The Hydralisks going for a counterattack, maybe wanting to try to get a base race situation or stop some of these bases. Snow engaging the mineral only is going to be able to wipe out everything there and potentially walk all the way to the natural expansion since Zealot's already engaging Hydralisk there. Snow going to lose the mineral only, certainly. The probes evacuated instantly from that location to the 6 o'clock. And I've got to say, in the base race scenario, I think Snow's going to win it. Huge supply lead, crushing that natural. So Soma was hoping to cut off the lifeblood of Snow and wipe out these bases. He's got to walk uphill against cannons with Psystorm in the wings. Very patient right here from Snow. Now that Psystorm being dropped on those Hydralisks, the probes trying to defend for their lives. Critical moments in the match right here. Another High Templar spawns. It's going to be a while before another Psystorm's there. Reinforcements in the form of Zealots moving out. And the Zealots plus the probes starting to surround that Hydralisk force and drive them back and buy time for more Psystorm. The main has been wiped out in the meantime. Critically, that lair, this might have been a decision from someone recognizing that lair was not at the natural or the main, but more Psystorm from reinforcements across lurker burrows moving up. Probes actually getting feisty, going out onto the low ground. The High Templar making it up to the high ground. One more Psystorm left here. This is going to be critical. Looks like Soma giving up. No, I take it back. Recognizing the criticality of taking this base, moving in with all of the lurkers. A Psystorm burying two of them. The cannons just about left. More lurkers making their way in. The reinforcements from that natural expansion assault now climbing in to save the day. So it looks like Snow exchanged the main natural expansion and mineral only for 2 additional bases. Now he's going to go ahead and back out with what's left. That lurker trying to climb into the rear, disrupt mining, but dies before he's able to get anything more accomplished. Natural expansion was trying to be grabbed from someone to the bottom right to mitigate some of those earlier losses, but not enough. So in a barn burner at the end, Soma falls to Snow in game 1, but an intense one. And honestly, razor thin margins. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And with that, game 1 goes to Snow on Allegro. I'm gonna have to say, I'm not sure how I feel about Soma's adjusted 973 non-bust into macro style. I can see where he's had some struggles with it. We move on to Odyssey. Upper right hand corner, we have Soma starting as the purple Zerg. Bottom left hand corner, we have Snow starting as the white Protoss. Appropriate white for Snow. Odyssey with the double gas, which has 5,000 between it, which is equivalent to a single gas on another map, but with the double extractor, I'm almost wondering if it's not worth it because of the mineral investment that's required. But in theory, you can get gas a little bit more rapidly. The lower Vesping Geyser is less efficient, and it does still put some, because it's only 1,000, it does put pressure on Zerg to make sure they establish additional bases out rapidly. But in theory, you can get 4 gas pretty rapidly as a Zerg player. I haven't seen any creative builds to really take advantage of this as of yet, though. And I'm wondering if we're going to see another gas steal from Snow, again to try to force earlier hatchery play and maybe make negotiations more towards that Hydro style. Granted, game 1 definitely paid off for him. Game 2, Soma actually in pretty strong positions at various points of the match, but Snow doing a fantastic job of staying active. I think just a couple of those engagements, Snow's Psystorms were just too good, and it really obliterated large portions of Soma's army. And that was the deciding factor. Spawning pool dropped. And it looks like the probe trying to avoid the Overlord. Almost playing this like a PVT. Maybe that was how Snow managed to get in the mentality of this matchup. He's like, I'm going to play this, do crazy things. So seeing the spawning pool, not opting for the gas steal here. Getting to work on a little bit of harassment. It looks like he is this time opening up Forge first. I kind of like it's almost like a slap fight between workers on occasion. And the way these two players micro so well with their initial worker units. It certainly makes it look that way with the spits as the probes walking away. Initial 2 cannons being placed out of necessity. It looks like there are 6 Zerglings being constructed. Gas steal again from Snow, so I take it back. Maybe trying to delay those Zerglings a little bit. Natural expansion being constructed. There are the double cannons being surfaced, though. And it's kind of interesting going for a gas steal on a map where there is a second gas, almost trying to tempt Soma into grabbing that second gas. The probe remaining in the base, the Zerglings blockading the ramp briefly to prevent any exit. It looks like the gas has been canceled, but there's already a drone in position to potentially grab the third hatchery. Here, Snow wants to stay nearby. I assume to see the geysers here and maybe get a look at the guys with the natural expansion, because that would confirm that it is in fact a 3-hatch before anything else build. Overlord now making its way to the front, confirming that it was a Forge First opener. Nexus in construction. On the other side of the map, Snow has not grabbed his own gas. The 6 Zerglings trying to peel around. So that gas has been confirmed missing. That gas is confirmed missing. So Snow now, I assume, is going to make his way towards that 3 o'clock location to see if he can get eyes on this hatchery. Yeah, sneaking his way across. In fact, confirming it. Wondering if the pro gamers are at such a level where they see the mutation stage and they have an idea as to what the timing is. Because I'm actually curious what the... Maybe I should look this up myself and do an experiment and drop a hatchery and see what the precise timings are for the different mutation stages, because that's actually pretty valuable information as far as when those hatcheries went down. Cybernetics core morphing here at the main. Not that hardcore, though. That's what it comes down to, probably. If someone else does that information, I'll incorporate it, but probably not going to do it myself. Natural expansion just now coming online. And we'll see if Snow opts for quick double gas with that Cybernetics tour to go for maybe High Templar. It looks like we're seeing a Hydralisk down again. Hydralisk speed being upgraded, which does provide the possibility of an early Hydralisk bust. Initial drone constructed here at the 3 o'clock. A Zealot has been produced and is making its way out to the 3 o'clock position. The Zerglings, depending on how distracted they get by this probe, might not be in position to help deal with it. There's a lot of places to hide the Zealot. Nice job on Snow's part, allowing the Zergling to pass with that probe. These Zerglings backing up, thinking about that probe, not thinking about defending the drones at that third. And so either there's going to be some interrupted mining time here or potentially some drone kills as well. Drones taking 2 shots. Now it's been spotted. The Zerglings chasing their way in, but a second Zealot is on the field. And if he joins with his brethren, could force additional Zerglings. Yeah, Soma now backing out. Still trying to trying to do the difficult job of keeping an eye on where those Zealots are located without taking free damage. More Zerglings running that direction. We do have 4, 7, so something equivalent. I believe this will be 8. So yeah, equivalent to 973. Snow has not seen any Hydralisks up to this stage. Is preventatively dropping that third cannon, just to be certain. Hydralisks now out on the field. Thought they should be. Zerglings scooting around everywhere to see if there's any troops that snuck around. Scattering every which way, and now the Hydralisks making their way towards the front. But this is a good amount of Zealots that might be able to get right in their face. Overlord to the south. Snow trying to dodge the vision and running right into the Hydralisks. That should provoke some additional cannons here at the natural. Soma did a pretty good job of hiding that all the way around. So this is going to be a tough defense from Snow. Now dropping that second cannon out on the front. Definitely going to have to cancel that +1 weapons. The gateway remaining silent. He's going to need another pylon back here to make sure these cannons remain powered. Soma going for it. Nice instantaneous Zealot blockade along the southern Hydralisks. So a lot of damage eaten. It looks like the Zealots almost losing their lives on the way across. Now going for that second cannon before those additional defensive cannons come online. And we do see more Hydralisks streaming this direction. So Soma, rather than the drone production, so Soma potentially going for it right here. Maybe going to wait for reinforcements, hiding the additional Hydralisks. More cannons being dropped on the front. Gateway's now down. Forge taking damage. Soma just waiting, it looks like, before dedicating attack forces. The Zealots getting dropped. More cannons being dropped from Snow. to try to defend this. This could be the moment. If Soma goes now, he might be able to take out all of these cannons with focus fire with just the 3 zealots defending on the line. But now going on, I guess that might be a half second too late. 2 cannons getting wiped out immediately. Additional hits. And yeah, it looks like that is going to be it. Soma now holding. I do see a few additional Hydralisks making their way across, but I don't see additional streams. And I'm expecting... No, never mind. We are seeing additional... No, we got a hatchery already building behind this. So initial damage done, forcing the cannons. Now we're going to see transition more towards the drone count. The Corsair confirming that the hatcheries have been planted, which is allowing Snow to feel a little bit more comfortable in his current cannon count. Dropping gateways behind this, +1 weapons being upgraded as well. Evolution Chamber at the natural, and Layer also being morphed. So Soma in a pretty strong contained situation now around Snow. The Hydralisks trying to make their way back, hunt that Corsair down, be some threat, and you can see all of the movement and whatnot in the initial game pressure to just get back towards 5-hatch Hydralisk in the mid game. It feels like that is what Soma's kind of aiming for, and I can see where he's had trouble because it just felt like if he had moved a half second earlier, that might have been a kill situation. It's challenging for Protoss to defend against that, but it's also challenging for Zerg to commit one direction or another. Another half a control group of Hydralisks making their way to the front, I think more for containment procedure than anything. Trying to move mid-map. That Corsair forcing them back as there's no Hydralisk currently at the natural. Spire being dropped right under that Corsair. What's interesting about dropping that Spire is there's a double factor aspect to it where it might force additional Corsair production because there is that threat of a muta counter, maybe some cannons at the main, but it also could just be there for, you know, just the 2 Scourge. I do also want to mention that there's this third base, or this, which is typically the third I see when other players play this map, which has been untouched up to this stage. Snow does have access to that himself. The Spire being constructed could allow some Mutalisks, which would make that base much more challenging to defend as you can't get units across that area. You'd have to rely solely on cannons for the defense. Lurker aspect being upgraded, that could assist taking down the temples rapidly to apply additional pressure. Could see the same thing opposite directions from Snow with some Archons at some point in the mid game. Robotics facility. Basically, if you have units with splash, I think Reavers count as well. They can take down those temples a little bit more rapidly. So Lurkers, I'm not sure if you can plague this or not, but Lurkers are basically it for Zerg to get them down rapidly. Archons and Reavers otherwise. Because I do believe it's a stack of temples, not just one temple, where you can just push through it, and kind of the classic thing where you kill the one and there's still yet another one stacked under it. Overlord going to get taken out. Worker counts in Soma's favor right this second. Looks like he's just now going to go ahead and grab that 4th base. Snow not in a terrible position, though. Solid worker count. Hasn't established his 3rd as of yet. Moving the Corsair to the south, maybe to think about it. A lot of High Templar. It looks like he wants to go for some Storm Drops. And Storm Drops at this isolated location could be absolutely huge. Hydralisks already grouped up at the 3rd. Kind of an odd location for that Queen's Nest, a little bit forward. Looks like the Zealots, in fact, spotting it. Some Lurkers now morphing to the front. I will say I have not seen any Observers out yet for Snow as well, and that could definitely delay his 3rd. He's got Double Forge running, but the Evolution Chambers in triplicate already on Soma's side of the map. The Filer Mound and Hive Tech already here as well. So Snow actually going to sneak up and grab his 9 o'clock rather than worrying about this rear expansion. Checking to the north, sees that hatchery in construction. The Zealots moving up on the high ground. So he could actually ferry a good amount of troops over that ledge. And I don't even know that High Templar would be necessary there. The Scourge being pushed away. Some Zealots across that high ground. Or Dragoons. Or yeah, he's just going to scoop up some Zealots and plop them into that hatchery range. This might force a cancellation from Soma, because he can't reinforce except with drones. Yeah, so just going to cancel, exit, so another base denied. More Zealots being scooped up, maybe to go for a drop in another location. A couple Zerglings between. It looks like they're not going to be there to stop that third base of Snows from being established, but Soma's early game play did exactly what he had hoped. He's at the 60 drone count, has 3 bases pretty well saturated, he's grabbing his 4th, and does have about even supply. We're Serg getting wiped out right there. The Zergling fighting a little bit of a fight, but not much else. And Snow's way out here on the map. It looks like denied some vision out here. I always wonder what these things are precisely. Drop of Zealots out into the main, but Soma has plenty of troops, looks like, to engage, morphing some lurkers to preserve the damage. Hydralisks even. Zerglings swarming around the Zealots otherwise. Drone count not dropping. The rest of the Zealots just going to hang out here and guard that additional base. So trying to find some ground to go ahead and engage, side storming uphill. Catching a lot of Zerglings with that side storm, but the Filer's moving up, and there's, I believe, so no Plague as of yet, and I think that might be because Plague is not yet researched or is still in the process of researching. Try to keep an eye on that for you guys as things progress. But now, Soma in the place he wants to be. Worker count's just about even. Zealots hanging out near that Xel'Naga temple to the north. I will say one advantage of this kind of blockade right here is you don't have to worry about someone going for, yeah, they can stop this base from going up, but they're not going to be able to attack your main by being able to breach that temple wall. Soma just defending up on his side of the map. Big lurker, kind of a soft contain amount of lurkers there towards that 3 o'clock location as that base in the bottom right establishes. Snow going to grab a base himself and in a pretty good position. 2 Mutalisks making their way up, but the thing is, it's going to take a while for these 2 Mutalisks to kill these Zealots. In fact, let's go for a time count. We're at, what, 14:10? We'll see how long it takes for things to progress. Archon's holding the ramp to prevent Zerglings from sweeping through. I believe their Greenel upgraded. Might be able to catch just on, yeah, able to catch High Templar, and you just saw how swift that was. Now Plague being upgraded. It'll be huge to stop some of these armies up. So Darkstorm being dropped there at the 3 o'clock. Soma just exiting out of the side storm. Zerglings replacing under it to deal with those Dragoons. Still work, yes. So down to 2 Zealots left. Might be a full minute. So it does want that additional base. Right now, though, in a pretty good position. Isn't mining gas, though, in that bottom right just yet. Looks like there's okay, I was about to say, it looks like there's a bit of a detente between the two. Maybe the Zealot is kind of waving and made friends with the Mutalist. More side storms clearing out. Snow trying to find some region, accidentally attacking his own Dragoon. Even the pros make mistakes on occasion. We saw right there. So it was 14:10, so a full minute has now passed. The Zealot's still wandering around. A drone did make its way down there. I think Snow's just put this on patrol move to mess with those Mutalisks. Yeah, it looks like that is in fact the case. So just patrolling as wide a field as possible. But that hatchery has in fact planted. Hydro's trying to swing across to the south, not getting a lot accomplished. Archon's now moving up to the high ground, and actually this might be the moment where the Archons could take down that temple. As Soma losing control of the high ground, might have to cancel that hatchery once again, although he is grabbing another hatchery bottom right to maintain that economic lead. Currently up 20 supply, in good position. Yeah, now the Archon's making their way. So it doesn't just destroy the top temple, it destroys all of the stacked temples. I'll have to look that up after the fact to make sure that it's multiple stacked temples, not just one. Big Plague mid-map on a lot of the Dragoons, which will really soften them up. And they're already very, very fragile versus those Cracklings. Upgrade-wise, level 2 weapons, level 2 armor, level +1 armor. So a brief upgrade advantage. Yeah, very brief upgrade advantage for Snow. I think he is going to be able to force cancellation. I think the Mutalist saw it. So yeah, that's now opened up at the 12 o'clock. So everyone's sweeping in mid-map. But a drop bottom left. I didn't even realize that Soma upgraded drop. But fortunately for him, yeah, they can't get back to the main, but they are going to destroy that base bottom left. Scooping right back up and moving right into the main. And that could be huge if the Forge ends up either a forced cancellation or nothing else. There was a cancellation of that hatchery at the 12 o'clock. In the meantime, dropping already all the way at the main. No lurkers in this grouping. I don't see an observer alongside either. Looks like some of the troops can try to make their way back out. Just barely make it past that Archon. Re-engagement midfield. So Snow has 4 bases as he's making his way up to try to storm Soma back, but unfortunately he's not really stopping Soma's economy, sitting at 70 drones. So yeah, he's got 4 bases, but it's kind of a tentative 4 to hold. Usually Protoss, as soon as you get past 3 in this era, they're feeling pretty solid, but Soma looking scary, particularly with the wide swath of territory to hold, not a lot of engagement points that aren't covered by lurkers at some location. You've got these bridges as well that could make lurkers even more effective. A couple side storms dispatching a few units, but both players maxed at this stage. Slightly larger bank for Soma. Looks like those Archons going to be wiped out. Manages to pick off the drone at the very least. That was a clutch play. To slow down that hatchery even further, that's going to be effectively 3 cancellations on hatcheries up there. And Snow now sweeping across to potentially once again move up and re-threaten, but a big sweep attack moving in. A bunch of exposed High Templar on the front. 3 of them getting taken out immediately. The lurker line behind them does fall. Snow drawing those attack forces back, again eating lurker fire across those bridges. I like the rear reinforcement. And Soma spreading out maybe with a game-winning maneuver to try to create a seal outside Snow's natural expansion. Snow backing off momentarily. Wow, he's got a lot of Archons. Level 3 weapons on them as well. Does have a detector. He's going to have to protect that heavily. Lurkers swarming forward. The cannons are not going to be a help as Dark Swarm is in place. Lurkers dropping. We do have Zealots and Archons sweeping in to try to negate that Dark Swarm. More lurkers pushing up, and I cannot tell how many lurkers are underneath there. There's 5 in the general area, 4. Numbers dwindling, so it looks like Snow is going to be able to defend and hold this. One of the lurkers remaining unburrowed. I can see why it's kind of hard to detect. And now that attack trooping from the north, moving in to go ahead and clear what is left. Even have a Dark Archon in here, maybe to get some either feedback on the Defilers, or more importantly, some Maelstrom. Near 80 drones now for Soma. Again with the supply lead, plus 2 weapons. I'm going to try to check where, yeah, and we're not that far away from a fully upgraded Zerg army. Hatchery finally going up to the 12 o'clock. A slew of defenses now in the bottom right, and I think Soma has correctly identified all he has to do is keep pestering Snow. Snow needs to attack into him and hurt his economy someplace out on the map. His main is mined out. His natural expansion is gone. 9 o'clock base is running. He's just got this base upper left. Big engagement mid-map. The Plague very precisely on the Dragoons. Doesn't do much to the Archons. The Archons still able to press through with a wall of flame and clear a lot out, but Snow doesn't like it. He needs to pull back. If he ends up losing an army, it could be a scary situation, because that if he loses his standing army out on the field, he could end up losing the bases along that left-hand side in a counterattack. Zergling sweeping through, so he's got the very challenging position here where he's got to defend his holdings, take out one of Soma's bases, not lose his army, and not fall to a counterattack or a contain at his natural. Looks like he wants to try to push into this bottom right upon seeing a lot of the Sutton colonies and that choke, and Lurker's already in position, gonna back out. Archon loses its life for the effort. Few Zealots making the way. I think they were hoping that this northern corridor was unguarded. The Lurker's not yet burrowed. There are additional units to go ahead and engage, however. Plague on the units to the south in the meantime. Snow now down 20 supplies, side-farming his own units, which he needs to start preserving units. Soma doing a pretty good job of spending minerals here overall, and actually he's mined out of the 3 o'clock his natural expansion and his main. So this is actually 3 base versus 2 base at this stage. And so it's going to be critical to have favorable engagements for both players at this stage of the match. And this is, well, maybe Soma can... I don't think this is to free up supply. I think this is just a misrally. These drones going to end up losing their lives as they're trying to transfer out of the main and, I believe, the natural expansion to to bottom right. Actually, not too terrible a loss. Soma re-engaging this attack force across the 3 o'clock. A few lurkers flying in from the rear, eating some side storms for their effort, however. And it's looking like Snow's army is a bit surrounded. Defiler losing its life on its way across, but a lot of Zerglings and more purple streaming across. Snow with a slight bank lead. But now losing some Archons midfield, and those are big pricey units. It's a lot of gas to cost. Reinforcements streaming across. Observers on retreat, and Snow pulling back, checking out, finding just a Zergling there. This almost feels like an ocean scenario where you're running out of minerals. You're in the ocean sort of thing. You can see it, but you can't drink it. As far as the dehydration in the water, I'm not sure I did that metaphor justice. Plague on top of the Zealots and a sacrificial lurker egg to hold them in place. Let me try that again. When you're dehydrated in the ocean, you can't drink the water because otherwise it just makes things worse. Because it's saline water, not potent water, potable water. So it's almost like this here with that Zergling hanging out where he wants to take it but can't. Snow trying to grab that base. Soma right on top of it. Observers getting picked off mid-map. The Dark Templar in the grouping, able to dodge out of a little bit of Overlord fire, getting some good damage there. Trying to swing back around, wants to engage that 12 o'clock base. That Dark Templar did get taken care of. Big side storms over what's left. More High Templar moving up, but the Zealots are dwindling. Huge amounts of lurkers now, chasing down what is left of this attack force, dodging the storms. And it looks like there's still some Mutalisks out in the field, and Snow having to back out. And again, he's lost large portions of his army, which means he's not going to be able to establish additional bases. And Archon trying to morph. Soma holding short with what's left. So, pretty decent saturation for Soma. Snow still with the worker lead, but the army looking very thin, and Soma with a big supply lead in raw army count. Lurkers moving up with some Zerglings and Lurkers to attack that upper left 10 o'clock base. Observers hovering over the Lurkers. Big plague on the Zealots. They're going to retreat entirely now. And with this Defiler in place, a couple Dark Swarms, and this could be a dead base. Zerglings chew through cannons so rapidly. In a blink of an eye, gone in that Nexus, potentially next. Sidestorm and Archons making their way up. An inverted ramp block with the Lurker Egg to prevent the Archons from providing support. Hydralisks pecking away at the Archons on the rear, and they're eating a lot of damage fire. Sidestorm from a High Templar that I believe spawned in base just to preserve that Nexus. Just a sliver of health left. A furious fight over this upper left-hand base, and this could be the game-winning maneuver from either player. If Snow's able to defend, could be in a good economic situation to follow things up. A Lurker burrows, attacking a cannon that might be able to detect a probe losing its life along the way. High Templar in full retreat, more purple making its way across, and I don't know that Snow can hold this 10 o'clock. Trying to sidestorm a few Zerglings as they're making way in. A single Zergling able to wipe out that cannon. Going to prevent that Archon from summoning as well. Units making the way across, potentially just giving up on that location, maybe wanting for a counterattack. Now the Zealots trying to reposition. This Nexus certainly is lost. And now Snow needs to get a counterattack either at the 12 o'clock location or do sufficient damage at some other location. But it looks like he's having trouble deciding where to send those troops. Also down 30 supply. Nexus falls. Probe's not going to be able to evacuate either. Plague mostly catching Archons, but the second Plague, it looks like, or maybe that was part of the same Plague, catching some of those Zealots, going to soften them up, and a huge Lurker barricade, further whittling the health of these troops down as they move beleagueredly forward. The Dark Archon, I'm not sure if it was plagued or not. It's hard to tell with the grouping red and the attack force of Snow just melting under all of the Lurker fire. The Hydralisk attack upon losing that base, calling GG right there. Another great one. And with that, Game 2 on Odyssey goes to Soma. And I gotta say, looking at these matches thus far, these players are evenly matched. So Soma able to strike back on Odyssey and grab a win, but now we are going to move on to Butter, which is a 1v1 map. Upper right corner we have Snow starting as the blue Protoss. Bottom right hand corner we have Soma starting as the white Zerg, which does create the threat of early game harassment from Snow's probes. And as we've seen in previous matches and throughout ASL, Snow's early game probe micro is incredible. I would not be shocked to see Soma open up with a 9 pool or something along those lines to try to negate Snow's early probe harassment. That also opens up the possibility for Snow on the opposite end to go ahead, and I believe I heard from some high-level players, Machine, that you can actually sneak Forged Nexus Cannon on this map because of the rush distances and get away with it. We'll see if Snow actually opts to open up Forge first. Because of that, is planting a pylon near that natural expansion, that probe returning towards the mineral line, which oftentimes suggests, rather than mining the minerals at the secondary location, it suggests he might be thinking about going Forge first, as he's a little bit less concerned about planting that gateway as rapidly as possible. But that's not an absolute indicator, so we'll have to see. Probe making its way out as that 150 minerals is coming online, and we see a gateway to start. So we are going to see initial Zealot harassment. Did in fact have an overpool build on the opposite side of the map, which means those Zealots, after some potential encroachment into Soma's territory, are going to need to back out and play defensively. Overlord making a streamline towards that natural expansion, probe making its way across, a drone moving out to go ahead and get scouting information as well. Actually, instead of getting scouting information, just going to get scouting information from the Zerglings, skipping that natural expansion and going to plop down the second hatchery, it looks like at the 6 o'clock location, rather than dealing with potential probe harassment. Probe getting into the line is going to try to soften up these drones, maybe to get additional play. This also makes me wonder if we're going to see the initial play of 3 hatch before gas. Only a pair of Zerglings being produced. The Overlord is in position to see the Zealot make its way across. So initial Zealot, Soma sees it with that Overlord. We'll see if he produces additional Zerglings in response. Currently, those larvae remaining silent. And it looks like it is, in fact, going to be 3 hatch before gas. Probe making its way back to go ahead and disrupt that natural expansion, dropping a pylon, but that probe taking a good amount of hit, now completely wiped out. Working on that pylon, the Zealot making its way back, recognizing that it would be if additional Zerglings were created, it's potentially a threat. Actually, no, hesitating, remaining mid-ground, wants to see whether the Zerglings are going to make their way back to the natural expansion afterwards or not. Nexus being plopped down from Soma. Gas ended up being grabbed as a result of that before that 3rd hatchery, but so it's going to be a bit of a delay. 2 Zerglings making, actually heavily damaged Zerglings making the way in between, so missed a bit of action there. The Zealots walking towards the main, forcing more Zergling production out of Soma. Snow doing a great job of doing the small things early game here to hurt that economy. The Zerglings, however, because there's no Zealot defense, able to slip through. Granted, they're both weak, which means some good probe defense might be able to handle that. The Zealot's trying to create a blockade at that space. So it looks like the Zealot able to get 2 quick kills between point A and point B, and 3 Zealots still threatening between the main and the natural. Probe starting to, actually more Zerglings being produced here at the 6 o'clock. This might turn into a straight up Zergling flood now from Soma after all of this early game harassment. Zergling speed is being upgraded. The Zealots holding again between that natural expansion and the main. These Zerglings should be able to get a flank from the opposite location. 2 Overlords in position as that Nexus coming online. First cannon being built there as well. This is going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, of early game Zerglings that were not in fact drones. The drone count at a pathetic 10 right here for Soma, so he's got to do a lot of catch up. The 3 Zealots are not going to be able to escape, so I'm wondering if once Zergling speed finishes, Hydrosten being plopped down, if this is going to turn into immediate surround on the Zealots and then a shoot up to the natural expansion of Snow to go for a potential bust. Overlord being pushed back by the cannons. The Zealots being surrounded behind the gas, trying to buy as much surface area as possible. Doing a great job of forcing a couple. You see the Zerglings not able to get as much done as they might have wanted to. Speed is finished. They're making their way up. 3 Zealots are here with a cannon behind the lines, +1 weapons starting on the front. So I don't know that Soma is going to be able to get a breach. He has produced 2 additional Zerglings, but at the very least, he's gotten Snow in a position where information is limited on his side, but not for long as that Stargate is up. Snow's done such a good job of inhibiting Snow's early game economy, or sorry, Soma's early game economy, that even with a bust, I don't know that it will be sufficient here. Hydro speed being upgraded, I almost feel like 973 and an early flat-out dedication for Soma is going to be necessary just to have a shot at taking this game early. As those Zealots, all of the Manor Pylon at the natural expansion, the gas take, the 4 Zerglings have done a massive impact on Soma's early match economy. Hydralisk speed just about to finish. Now, we will see, because Soma has multiple times previously gone for the Hydralisk attack and backed off. I feel like it's a little bit more of a necessity right here, and he has produced additional Zerglings, a little bit more of a necessity to engage heads up and maybe go for the bust. The Hydralisk spotted by the Corsair, so he knows it's potential 973 play here with a bust. Photon cannons being dropped. Should actually look at the drone count here. In the natural, we do in fact see, there we go, 7. At this location, we've got 4. So actually 974. Potential economic recovery. The 2 Corsairs out. The Hydralisks taking position. This will be the question, and we do see additional Hydralisks being constructed and making their way across. It's such a long distance to travel, though. Zealots wanting to salvage that +1 weapons, making their way out. The Zerglings engaging the Zealots to shield those initial Hydralisks. Another cannon being dropped. This cannon being canceled in the rear. And it looks like Soma does want to continue to play this, even if he wanted to go for a bust. The Corsairs have managed to pick off an Overlord, which has stymied additional Hydralisk production. The Hydralisks now forced to cover the Overlord lines rather than being out on the front. 4 Hydralisks working on that forge. Snow looking to go ahead and save +1 weapons, moving out. Soma was distracted, dealing with those Corsair. And it looks like Snow, what a fantastic game he's playing here. Another hatchery now being dropped. Another 2 hatcheries being dropped. I think out of force more than desire here, as the Hydralisk's not going to be able to stop +1 weapons from finishing. Incredible play here from Snow. That's almost always a guarantee when you see that Hydralisk opening play. Tech to layer. Huge worker lead now for Snow. Sizable Zealot force, although they have been softened up a bit, but they've got that +1 weapons. Big gateway flood behind this, potentially recognizing that actually it's +1 weapons. I'm not sure if +1 weapons upgraded and finished somewhere in the background of this or not. Templar Archives is morphing, but I think Snow realizes that he's got such a sizable economic lead. Ooh, look at this, splitting off 2 Zealots to the left, leaving the main attack force there. Unfortunately for these Zealots, well, I was saying they might be able to, they're not able to sneak through the shadows, but there's that Hydralisk force and there's the Zealots splitting off. They're going to go ahead and check that 9 o'clock location, other locations as well. The Corsairs drawing the Hydralisk out of position, and now there are 3 Hydralisks here, but this is +1 Zealot, so they might be able to take those Hydralisks out depending on the engagement point. Soma trying to fill in troops, his economy being beleaguered, and the Zealots actually skipping that location, gonna dive right into that natural expansion. Poke at the Overlords, not getting a lot accomplished there, gonna cycle right back around. Soma drawing back all the troops that were at the natural expansion of Snow. The Zealot at least able to look and see the evolution chamber there. Do we see more evolution chambers? It's just going to be the single evolution chamber to get that +1 weapons. The Zealots, the rest of the Zealots storming out. This is 2 big attack forces. The Corsairs spotting the initial Hydralisks, and they are surrounded. Going to eat a lot of damage. That Overlord going to get picked off as well, which opens up Dark Templar play mid-map, should Snow opt to do so. The Zerglings trying to join the engagement, but the Zealots all over this Hydralisk army, and this is units that Snow can expend, as he's got a lot of gateways to rebuild this army, where Soma really needed to start moving into drone saturation and hasn't been able to do so. The Zealot threat once again out on the map. High Templar forward field, +2 weapons upgrading. The Zealots continuing to engage. The one Corsair finally picked off. But Snow doing a fantastic job throughout this match. The Zealots now going to retreat to the high ground. Re-engage, continuing to rack up Hydralisk kills. Engaging over this high ground. You can see him just pulling back to the darkness, re-engaging. Finally going to retreat with that last 3 Zealots, but he still has a 30 supply lead. More Zealots, High Templar grouping up. He has paused on Hydralisk production here. A Dark Templar able to sneak through and get into the main. Drones defending themselves with the Hydralisks. Lurker aspect being upgraded. We do see a lack of robotics facility behind this. Dragoon range about halfway finished, but I still feel like if Snow wanted to, he could move out with his supply lead. Never mind, there's the robotics facility and the observatory. More Zealot sneaking across, and Soma has just been on the back foot this entire game, throwing a bunch of drones out there right this second to try to get in this match. Zealot sneaking into the 6 o'clock to kill more drones. And it just feels like Soma has not been able to find Snow's army this entire game. +1 weapons just finishing. The Zealots were looking for an exit. Now they're trapped, so they're going to expend their lives. But more units as those Hydralisks were out of position, and that was a drone cycle, so the units on defense are going to be minimal. Hydralisks that were trying to block the natural and the main being that's opened up. The Hydralisks now making their way to try to defend this, as Zealots taking out the drones on the gas line and encroaching on the main. Looks like the Hydralisks are going to be able to clean this attack force up. But still, massive economic damage. Snow still with a huge lead, and this is a massive amount of Dragoons. +2 weapons, upgrade lead. He's going to have an observer in not too long. I think he might already have an observer out in the field. Let's see if I can look for it. A Zealot is actually pocketed in that corner. Corsair continuing to do damage against from an annoying position. And Soma has the worker lead briefly here. He is saturated across three bases, but still a large supply deficit. And the Dragoons are going to hit hard. The Observer's out. Looks like we have a single Hydralisk to the north to try to delay that third base. But I don't know that Soma has enough raw units on the ground to defend, again, even with those Lurkers, assuming that Observer's out of position, to defend what's out here for Snow. Maybe if the Observer gets picked off by the Hydralisk, right now there's the Observer, that'll be a key piece. Psystorm on the few Lurkers that are there. Soma just gonna GG, recognizing that, yep, these Dragoons, there's too many of them, they're too highly upgraded. So Snow taking yet another win, and honestly in a very convincing fashion on Butter. We'll move on to Nemesis, which is a bit of an odd map. New on the ladder. Top right corner, we have Soma as the white Zerg. Bottom right hand corner, we have Snow as the blue Protoss. Even though this looks like an inverted ramp, all territory on Nemesis is flat ground, I believe. Not sure about this up here. You do have the high ground above the natural, which can create some chaos, but the interesting aspect of Nemesis is you have the lurker eggs blockading alongside these assimilators, so you can kind of sneak up, grab this as a base, take down the eggs, and once you take down both assimilators, only ghosts can make it through. If you take down one assimilator, only small units can make it through. So you can force Protoss into more drop play, and you can see where Mutalisks can be very, very strong on this map. Snow dropping a pylon towards his natural expansion already. It is a 4-player map, which opens up the possibility for a 12 Nexus, even though it's versus Zerg in the dark. For Snow, Soma, I assume, is going to open up 12 hatch, since it's a 4-player map, and I would expect a 12 hatchery. Need all the economic advantages you can get. Gateway plop down on the front. So it looks like he wants to play another gate opener, and it looks like Snow is also going to get first scout. And we'll see if it is, in fact, I almost wonder if it's a 12 hatch on the opposite side from Soma. This has got to be so frustrating as well. Snow's early game aggression has been fantastic, and it looks like it is going to be an attempt at a 12 hatch. Is going to execute the 12 hatch. The probe not able to get there to blockade, but Snow's early game aggression was so fantastic last match. I can't, and that was with an early pool opener. Now you have a hatchery opener. Ooh, are we going to see an early drone kill? No, the probe going to remain alive. Trying to back out to preserve health. Zealot being initially constructed, but after all of that early pressure, I would feel fearful seeing a gateway opener and having that first scout already out. Soma sees the gateway, has to assume that Zealot's going to be produced, which means there's going to be a necessary drone defense, or a necessary drone defense. Probe being chased down by the drone, wants to soften that shield so it's going to be a less effective ally. And you can see actually, yeah, both drones pulling off initially to try to whittle down that probe shield so it's not quite as effective a unit once the Zealot joins its forces. One drone pulling off maybe to scout or maybe to interrupt that Zealot. Not going to find that Zealot. Spawning pool finishing as that Zealot's making its way across that flatland into the main. Zerglings being produced, so drones going to need to defend themselves. Some economic disruption. Working on that gas line initially. That probe keeping himself pocketed at the bottom right-hand corner rather than joining this attack force. A lot of initial damage. Six Zerglings produced. That Zealot going to return to home base behind this. More Zerglings. So this is going to be complement of 8 to deal with this Zealot. Nice spread there from Soma to wipe that Zealot out. The probe still hiding in that bottom right-hand corner. Second hatchery. Wow, a lot of Zerglings actually to start. Natural expansion being built. Forge online. The Zealot and probe going to necessarily be on the front as the Zerglings making their way across. And as much as I was talking about Snow's early game aggression, Soma doing a drone cancellation trick there to get a spot of additional supply. There's no cannon here yet, and a lot of Zerglings flooding towards the natural. Starting to work on that gateway. First cannon being built, but these Zerglings could be trouble as they outnumber the Zealots. Snow trying to draw off the line to draw some fire, but the Zerglings still doing their work on that gateway. If that gateway falls, it'll certainly be game, as that natural expansion will be open and exposed. A Zealot dying as it spawns. The additional Zealots engaging the Zerglings across the line. Probes trying to engage. The gateway being ignored momentarily. Another Zealot able to be produced. The cannon falls. Another cannon being produced, and more Zerglings now swarming towards the natural expansion. I talked about Snow's early game aggression, but Soma, oh, there's the Zerglings. I was about to say they need to join that fight if this is going to be a kill, but it looks like it is going to be an early game Zergling flood and a win for Soma. So Soma showing that, yeah, your early game harassment is good, but guess what? If you overstep your bounds, I will wipe you out. Good counterattack from Snow. And that was off a 12 hatchery, keep in mind. Going to move to Neo Sulfid. 3-player map, 12 o'clock location. We have Snow as the white Protoss. Bottom left-hand corner, we have Soma as the teal Zerg. Feel a bit sheepish now after talking about all of the supreme early game aggression from Snow and how fearful I was with the 12 hatch opener. Instead, Soma showing that, you know what, I am capable of pulling the trigger and going for Zergling floods, wiping you out if you're not careful. Happens to the best of the best. I'm sure it feels vindication for the Protoss players out there where they're like, see, even Zerg can even do that at the upper rungs. Hard to defend. Snow dropping that pylon at his natural. He's opened up gateway first every single game thus far. Actually, after game 1, I'm almost wondering if Soma will opt for a 12 hatchery play once again, since that seems to be better suiting him. Nope, looks like he's going to open up 9 pool this time. Not even over pool, going straight 9 pool. It is a 3-player map. Sometimes Protoss will go for 12 Nexus play. Very, very risky. I assume we're not going to see that here. Extractor being grabbed. Never mind, extractor cancellation trick to sneak additional supply and get that one extra drone. Which leads me to believe that we are going to see early Zerglings out in the field. Soma may be feeling a little bit feisty, especially after that last match. And it looks like we are in fact... Oh, this could be a quick one. We are in fact seeing a 12 hatch from Snow. Moving that probe scout out. He is going to get first scout, but regardless, this could be a quick win. Initial 2 Zerglings being produced, third set of Zerglings shortly after. No gas grab yet. The Overlord's going to be able to find that bottom right-hand corner of the drone, making its way out to grab that natural expansion. Once this Overlord sees nothing here along the natural, knows the Zerglings need to go to the 12 o'clock. Forge being morphed. The Zerglings on their way. And this is going to be incredibly difficult for Snow to defend. He's got at least the probe to create some distraction for Soma in his main. An additional pair, actually, yeah, additional Zerglings being produced. So a lot of harassment. First cannon down, but the probes are going to have to pull off the line to help defend against this. They need to get around that cannon before the Zerglings do. Gateway to blockade as well, but that is not a tight seal. Probes getting a lot of initial damage on these Zerglings. 1 probe down, 2 probes down, only 2 Zerglings remaining. So it looks like with that defense, Snow is going to be able to get that cannon up. More Zerglings on the way. The probe trying to create some time blockade, however. 1 Zergling survives, getting chased into that corner. What a great defense from Snow, though. All of those initial 6 Zerglings taken care of. More Zerglings making the way out. However, the worker count down to 12 for Snow, 10 for Soma. Looks like the Zergling's just going to back off, and that was a lot of delayed mining time. However, Snow, I'm going to say, for a lesser player, that would have been game. Incredible probe defense by Snow. Absolutely brilliant. Natural expansion up for Soma. Layer morphing halfway. Let's see if this is just going to be straight 2-hatch Mutalisk play. I assume we're not going to see 2-hatch Lurker here. The probe trying to make its way around. That's got to be frustrating for Soma as well. You go in, you find that it was a Forge first, or sorry, a 12 Nexus opener. That the cannon's not yet warped in, but just out of range and not able to kill it. Assimilator warping in. Snow maintaining that worker lead. Cybernetics core warping in at the natural expansion. Layer finishing. Zergling speed is being upgraded, which suggests it is going to be potentially 3-hatch play. The drone trying to create a blockade to get at that gap to hide information. Critical to hide this, and it looks like we do see a Spire as well. Probe wiped out, so unless this Zealot tries to move out onto the front to get scouting information, this is going to be a lack of vision for Snow. Cannon is alongside this Nexus. I like this placement because it can defend against Mutalisks at the natural expansion, also has range to help defend that front. Stargate warping in. That main could be exposed with a lack of cannons, though. Soma confirming that with his Overlord. Another drone making its way for an off-position hatchery. So I think, wow, this is kind of interesting. I am actually a little bit surprised that this hatchery is the hatchery that's being grabbed from Soma, because this is a hidden hatchery for sure. You usually don't want to expand into your opponent like this. The stereotypical location to grab is the nearby third or the 6 o'clock, or basically some location away from your opponent. This is also potentially along the Corsair path as it makes its way out towards the natural expansion to be spotted. Cannons preventatively being warped at the main. Snow not taking any chances here. 3rd hatchery now being dropped, so it's going to be... So initial 2-hatch opener. Initial Scourge being created. We have Carapace being upgraded as well. Yeah, I believe that hatchery was just spotted by that Corsair. The Zealots marching out initially to push off units. The Scourge missing the Corsair as it's able to spot, and yeah, no defense currently. Okay, it's going to back off. We do have Mutalisks being constructed. additional Scourge trying to hunt down that Corsair. Zerglings making their way back. And yeah, they can just... I don't know about this. So the hatchery's going to finish. The Mules are going to have to get there in a hurry to help defend. The Scourge, yeah, need to... It looks like one landed. Need to press against that Corsair. But I don't even know that the Mules are going to be in time with these Zerglings. 2 Mutalisks don't kill Zealots rapidly, so this could be a dead hatchery. Yeah, I don't know about this hatchery decision at all. The Zealots, 2 of them pulling away, 1 Mutalisk engaging otherwise, a Scourge moving up just to defend in case a Corsair moved up. 1 drone produced, Zerglings marching their way up. It looks like the Zealots are going to get whittled away and taken care of. An immediate additional hatchery drop on location. But basically this is a signal from Soma. So wiped out the Zealots, decent defense. The hatchery's low on health, but that means Soma's going to have to put up an incredible defense at this location. 2 additional Corsairs are out. Citadel of Adun, plop down, gateway, pylon, a bunch of pylons behind the wall as well. Very defensive posture, you can see, wanting to make sure that a single pylon wouldn't be able to wipe out a lot of tech. +1 weapons being upgraded, as this is going to be, looks like 5-hatch Mutalisk for a time. The Corsairs peeking out, looking at the saturation, see the 3rd gas, which is usually an indicator that it's going to be heavy Mutalisk play and a fight over air control. I almost feel like Soma displaying this. I'm wondering if this is part of a mind game almost. Displaying that hatchery, saying, okay, yeah, we're going to play an air control game, so let's go from there. +1 weapons are going to complete. We do have Zealots near the main. So now it's going to be, and you can see all the cannons in defense with Snow recognizing the scenario. 3 cannons at each location so that there wouldn't be a Mutalisk backstab opportunity. What this does potentially open up is maybe with just pure Scourge, a chance for Soma to undercommit to Mutalisk. Oh, High Templar getting picked off open field. In the open in-between space. +1 weapons finishes. Soma needs to be careful with his Air Force, as Mutalisk can get shredded very, very rapidly with that +1 weapons. Single Sultan colony here to the north. Hydralisk Den dropped. Hydralisk speed upgrading, +1 weapons. Neil's still trying to, looks like, move in between the gateway lines to find High Templar and pick them off. The gateway being produced towards the front. I like this. Build the High Templar at the front gateway so that these units, you know, will be safely making it to the cannon lines. +1 weapon finished. Armor being upgraded. Zealot leg speed just starting. The Scourge looking and hunting for units in between. The Corsair count is up at 6, which means they can engage Scourge usually, and if they micro well enough, wipe them out. Sidestorm on those Mutalisks. That was a very empty Sidestorm. A nice dodge there altogether from Soma. And Soma potentially looking to drone up heavily behind this, although he's filling out his attack force. He's dropped a 6 hatchery and is filling in with Hydralisks. I'm curious if he's going to transition this into a contain. Hydralurk mid-game. He's going to need that gas. 20 supply behind currently. Behind the worker count, 2 additional gateways being dropped. Solid defense. The Zealot's actually able to sneak out in the 1 gap of vision from Soma. Let's see if that Overlord spots it. And you can see, yeah, let's see if he swings all the way around to the natural expansion or if he is just going to move up and hunt. More Sidestorm expended. Some Scourge landing on the Corsairs. It's important to keep those Corsairs alive. 3 o'clock location scouted out from Snow, gathering up a sizable Zealot attack force. +1 weapons upgrading, getting that robotics facility as well. Soma just playing defensively, however. Getting that +1 weapons. I want to see if Lurker Tech is going to be an aspect in the follow-up game. Yeah, there's Lurker Tech being upgraded. So now, can Snow sneak out and get that 3rd? Can he strike and slow Soma's near base down? Looks like Zealot's checking out additional locations, making sure Soma hasn't expanded any place else. A drone getting wiped out as it was trying to move out and grab this base. Probe trying to make its way out. Not a lot of anti-Mutalisk defense right here. The Scourge, in large number, is pushing the Corsair back. An Overlord is spotting near that third base, and it looks like that probe, realizing it wouldn't be able to take that near third, is going to just walk into the 3 o'clock location, and Snow maybe hoping to establish a cannon line, moving out that army to create a distractionary shield to get his third base up and running. This is very exposed, as the Mutalisk could dive in, and I don't think this attack force is sufficient to stop the Mutalisks from wiping out everything at location. Soma staging up to maybe grab his 4th base. Soma mirroring the movements of Snow's army. Snow's zealots that he sent out much, much earlier. Sweeping back across. It looks like that 3 o'clock base is going to establish. No cannons on position yet. Zealots engaging the Hydralisks in the bottom left. No 4th base. Lurkers morphing for Soma. But Snow was able to get that 3rd. +1 weapons. Good amount of gateways behind this. Observatory online. The Mutalisk diving in, able to pick off 1 High Templar. Working on the second, not quite able to land the second, but Scourge diving in, able to whittle down that Corsair count further. One thing for Snow is, since he has the large cannon count, he doesn't have to worry as much about a Mutalisk's quick Mutalisk exchange. However, Soma doesn't care about attacking from the air if he can just drop units down on the ground. And I don't see a lot of observers out, so with lurkers potentially in this drop, if the cannons are wiped out, that could be a dead front base. The Corsair spots it. 4 cannons on defense, but those cannons aren't going to last very long. Huge damage from Soma at the Bane. Probes fleeing. That Nexus could very quickly get wiped out. That observatory is very exposed as well. Units flooding in. The Observer off the front field. Snow pocketing, actually transferring troops to the 3 o'clock. You can see trying to create some defense there. Main Nexus is gone, and there were a lot of minerals to still harvest here. So huge attack from Soma. Snow still with a gigantic supply lead, however. But he needs to get something out of it to make his way through the rest of the match. It looks like another base being secured at that top right. An Archon being summoned to maybe look like a Nexus. Maybe try to create some tomfoolery right there. Be like, yeah, I'm grabbing a Nexus. And if you didn't look very closely, nope, that was in fact just an Archon morphing. Zealot still here bottom left. Soma still hasn't grabbed his 4th base. So actually, if Snow's able to establish both of these bases, he will be at an economic lead. He is rebuilding that Nexus, dropping more cannons. I think he's going to have the upgrade lead shortly. It looks like the Lurker's able to clean up that Zealot force in the bottom left. But Soma, despite that fantastic drop, going for a fake drop there, potentially in a dangerous situation here. It looks like he's going to go for a drop at the 3 o'clock. We do have 4 cannons there and an army nearby. So trying to go for a split force attack. So granted, Snow has the larger army, but the mobility is on Soma's side. The army trying to patrol between that 3rd. I have an Overlord back here to go ahead and spot this location as well. Hydralisks making their way bottom right. Finally, a 4th base being grabbed. Another drop now again in the main from Soma, trying to draw forces to the north. It looks like that entire attack force is making its way that direction. A side storm over the lurker line. So a detector is going to be required, and as this army has drawn those forces that direction, a secondary drop and attack force making their way to the 3rd. This is the true prize back here. Lurker is going to be able to plant back here, and there's no observer. So Snow dropping the observer discipline a bit because of that split attack. Finally, the observer able to make its way to clear those lurkers on defense, but that Nexus is going to drop at the 3 o'clock. There's still units able to clear out the gas and do additional damage in the main. And with that, the supply counts have come close to even, which means with this last drop, Soma has evened things up. It looks like he wants to go for a continuation drop to the top right. Snow breaking off an attack force, maybe wanting to assault the top left. More Hydralisks looking to go for another drop potentially in the main. That attack force that was maybe going to threaten Soma's additional base being repositioned to try to defend the Nexus under assault. And that Nexus going to get wiped out, and that potentially is going to open up another drop as Snow's troops out of position. Soma putting on some fantastic positional play here. Lurkers dropping over the gateway lines. An observer once again not in position to help deal with the lurkers. The Nexus was taken out. The troops for Soma were wiped out, but it doesn't matter. Snow now in a terrible economic position, plus the gateways under assault. Moving out his attack force mid-map. Maybe wants to assault the natural expansion. A lot of Hydros starting to press in. They have +2 weapons. Sidestorm catching 2 Hydros, but not a lot else. Soma being very, very defensive to make sure those Hydros don't get overstormed. Zealots very quickly being walked back and cleared out. I think Soma realizes that Snow has to come to him, and this is the last assault, so slowly walking back those attack forces. Now re-engaging Hydralisk versus Dragoon, although the Dragoons do have that +2 armor upgrade. Snow in a lot of trouble now. Distance mining with that base in the upper right-hand corner. Still has lurkers that are whittling away at his attack force to the north. 20 supply down. Zealots storming to that natural expansion. I think this is going to be it. Once these Zealots are wiped out, I would be shocked if Snow stays in this game. Lurkers unburrowing, reburrowing, and spreading to make the defense even harder. Hydralisk is rechecking that third, nothing there. Natural expansion's mined out. So the distance mining, the upper right, the little bit of mining that's happening here. This base being assaulted, the assimilator can't even get gas, so that's 2,000 gas that has been suspended. Another drop loading up for Soma. Huge worker lead at this stage. It looks like the lurkers are finally being cleared out of Snow's main, but he's down to just 27 probes. Moving a lot of the attack troops to the upper right-hand corner. Another drop to immediately replace the lurkers that were there just moments ago. And not a lot of a defense force here for Snow to try to repel it. The observer also getting picked off, which means these lurkers are going to have free reign. The observer from that upper right-hand base making its way back across. We have some overlords that are empty in that upper right-hand corner. But Soma's breached all locations. He's mining happily and droning up behind this to go ahead and saturate that fourth. More Hydralisks making their way across. They could just go for a ground assault to the right. A cannon being... both cannons being wiped out. The observer is now here. They need to be very, very careful that the Hydralisks aren't able to pick it off. But as the... I think that might be the lone observer. Never mind, there is an observer at this location, but this doesn't look like a sufficient enough defense force to stop all of these Hydralisks. 2 Sidestorms immediately being expended to try to whittle this Hydralisk attack army down. Not enough, though. High Templar being picked off in the rear. The Hydralisks moving past that Sidestorm, wiping out the rest. The reinforcements moving out, but Snow realizes it's too much. GG's there. An incredible play from Soma, really making it look easy on Neo Sulfid. And with that, we will move on to the other Neo map, Neo Arconoid. In the upper right-hand corner, we have Soma, starting as the orange Zerg. Bottom right-hand corner, we have Snow, starting as the red Protoss. Kind of an odd map. This is kind of the weird one. I think Odyssey is also a weird one, but you've got the stacked temples blockading the way. You have the mature chrysalises blocking the natural expansion to the west and to the north here from Snow's perspective. You also have a lot of these power generators and Xel'Naga temples blocking everything, so it almost plays a bit like a 3-base island map. At the same time, you can see where lurkers can shred and open things up very, very rapidly. Beaver Fire, splash damage, Archons working through those lines can open it up and make it more of a ground-based map. I actually really like this style of pseudo-island map to bring the island map concept back into play. And I think this is the great way to do it, where you have sort of the things that where you can utilize splash damage to make it happen. Big boon for Soma early. He is going to be able to move this Overlord and get first scout on Snow. I assume we're going to see a 12 hatchery opener, maybe even straight 3 hatch. Gateway first from Snow. Maybe this actually surprises me. This shocks me on this map. I wonder if he is going to try to go for some sort of probe and zealot push to get units out, assuming that Soma is going to go for just straight 3 hatch. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. Or maybe he just wants to make a quick rush to get air control potentially. Hatchery being built out of position near those chrysalises. Air control absolutely critical on this map. I'm not sure if this Overlord's going to spot this gateway or not. Spawning pool and gas being grabbed from Soma to follow this out. And do we see... Is this just to make... Yeah, I think it's just to get that cybernetics core up as rapidly as possible. Oh, and also the gateway placement to spot is the other aspect of play. So potentially wanting that initial zealot so he doesn't have to build the Nexus out of position. Getting the cybernetics core so he can get a Corsair up as rapidly as possible. I think that is the option from this play. Overlord coming across these lines is going to... And I think the gateway is going to be able to spot it opposite side of Forge. Also being constructed on the front. Overlord drawing back. Curious if we're going to see initial 2 Zerglings to start working their way across these chrysalises. Sometimes people will just dedicate workers towards that effort. Stargate being constructed, and I think this is just about going to be a very, very rapid Stargate. The Forge going to be necessary also potentially. Other problems for Snow is with the Mutalisks out on the field. There's a lot of territory to cover, depending on how your base is spread out, so location of cannons could be critical. I'll be interested to see how he lines up that defense. Drones starting to saturate this 12 o'clock. Or this, 3 o'clock. A probe trying to use that pylon trick to sneak through the lines to get some scouting information. Not quite able to, but going to provide additional scouting information to the north at the very least. No hatchery play as of yet. The Zergling's starting to work on the Xel'Naga, or sorry, on the Protoss temples to open up the interior. Swarming towards the south. Not the most efficient mining there for Soma. Now working on that power generator, so maybe wanting to make it a land attack. This northern pylon should be able to see those Zerglings before their coming photon cannon morphing in, and I thought these were stacked temples, but apparently not stacked. Just one and done. Zergling speed upgraded. Zerglings working on that left-hand side power generator. The Corsair making its way out, unfortunately scouting the wrong direction. So that Overlord well hidden overall. Power generator down, which just leaves a single temple, but there is a cannon on location. Zealots now attacking that chrysalis to open up play that direction. Corsairs found an Overlord exposed. Hydralisks making their way out, so it's going to be ground play. So 2 bait... Wow, this shocks me. So layer morphing there. Corsair under assault. Zealots making their way across to help defend the front. Exposing that second temple. Additional cannons being dropped. But with that Corsair picking off that Overlord, that's going to stymie Soma's attack, putting him into the red. Temple being whittled down. Also buying time for a lot of cannons to be morphed in. Robotics facility dropping as well. So I think Snow is hoping for some follow-up Reaver play. The Corsair pushing, preventing those Hydralisks from raining and just running up and joining the front. The Zerglings now trying to clear out this northern temple line to create 2 attack fronts. The Zealots marching their way up that direction. Let's see if a cannon gets planted. They're going to work on the Chrysalis as well. So Soma trying to get a secondary attack point. Doesn't look like that's been spotted by Snow yet because there's no defense cannon. Can't even click on that Xel'Naga. There we go. Well, there we go. starting to work down on troops. The Hydralisks regrouping as an opportunity breached. Chrysalis being opened up, potentially to drop that additional hatchery. Taking a while to make these just so many hit points. Now the Corsair able to find that attack force. The Zealot marching to maybe go for a flank on these units and create some disruption. No cannons being dropped as of yet from Snow, so it looks like he's just going to let it stand. More cannons being dropped. You got kind of a diagonal defense line. +1 weapons being upgraded as well. Overlord's a little bit exposed as no Hydralisk currently underneath them. Retreating to the north. That temple now in the red. And Snow just still sitting on one base. So this is one base versus two base. Probes trying to attack the Chrysalises to the south. And a third hatchery being grabbed from Soma. So Soma aggressively attacking Snow. Might be able to, certainly going to stop a Nexus from going up here to the north. Snow still sitting on one gateway. Now working on that Reaver. This pylon going to get wiped out. The probe trying to hide there to the north. And Snow actually in the red with that. So kind of the counter supply attack play. Zealots have been found mid-map. The Hydralisks and Zerglings going to engage with a decent amount of micro. Soma should be able to clean this up. Good micro there from Snow as well. But the Zealots wiped out. So now it is going to be up to a Hero Reaver, 2 Zealots, and 6 Corsair. We do have some Mutalisks out in the air, but not a lot of a defense force otherwise at the moment. And this is off one base. Snow needs to get something accomplished with this, though. Only 4 Hydralisks on defense. Make that 2 Hydralisks on defense. The Zealot's able to get into the lines, getting some explosive damage, so shutting down that additional base. It looks like the drone's going to transfer to that base to the north. The Reaver scooping right back up. Scourge getting wiped out. The Zealots, looks like one of them's going to be left. One of them taking care of defense at the main. The second going to get cleaned up by Mutalisk. But the Corsair still active, taking out Overlords. Might be able to get another shot to at least stop the gas that is mining here to the north. And as Soma backed off, still no Nexus grab from Snow. Still doesn't feel comfortable. 8 Corsair, no +1 weapons. Scourge and Mutalisks diving forward. If the Corsair get wiped out or pushed back and that shuttle is gone, that should be matched. Corsair scooping back. The Scourge able to land and wipe out 1 Corsair. Snow trying to grab that base in the bottom left. The Mutalisks will be there shortly to potentially wipe it out. Probes getting cleared out. And now air control slowly moving in Soma's favor. 2 Reavers in that shuttle. Still 3 base technically, although kind of an odd 3 bases. Excuse me. Otherwise, the Corsair need to get some Overlord kills. Yeah, keep Soma in the red. Otherwise, he will run away with this match. Still a sizable air fleet out there, and the shuttle, so hard to protect that. That shuttle is the only pressure that Snow has. Snow behind in workers right now. Trying to get another shuttle instead of Reavers out on the map. The Overlords should spot that center location. That 12 o'clock a bit exposed. The Reavers being dropped short. One of them being plopped down to create a dual attack that could go to the main and to the north here. Scourge surrounding, but the shuttle gets through. Drones exposed. The Scourge getting wiped out. The Mutalisks want to just clear out the Corsair force, because once that's gone, the shuttle has no protection. Soma still with a slight worker lead. Hydralisks working, actually using their lives to try to save drones otherwise. Now the Mutalisks just need to go, oh well, where are the Mutalisks? Okay, wiped out the Reaver there to the main. Now going to work on that Reaver at the natural expansion. And Snow now in a lot of trouble, as still plenty of drones out. Enough to still maintain a worker lead. The natural expansion trying to drop 2 cannons. But the Scourge, if they absorb cannon hits, will not be sufficient to defend this natural expansion, which means it's going to be 3 bases versus 2, and a rough situation for Snow overall. Soma swinging back around, picking probes off that far edge where the cannons do not in fact defend. But Snow really doesn't need to... I mean, he's engaging and getting the bonus. Not even necessary to engage in these attacks. Wiped out 2 more Corsair. Reaver and Zealot redropped. The shuttle wiped out, but still more economic disruption for Snow, which is critical. But I still, despite all of this, I don't know that it's been sufficient to give him the lead in any stage here, as it's still 3 bases versus 2. The Mutalisks working on that Reaver. As the Zealot's able to get in the main, 2, the drones having to defend themselves with the Mutalisks overhead. Zealots getting wiped out, but at least creating some economic disruption. With all of that, actually, Snow managing to even the worker count, which just feels miraculous, honestly. But as the Mutalisk count grows, if Soma can maintain that air lead, huge supply lead right this second, eventually he will just be able to overwhelm Snow. Double Stargate. Upon recognition of this, usually you need that to support the Reavers regardless. And the Mutalisks starting to move out. It looks like they're going to take another shot at the 6 o'clock location. 5 Corsair will be there shortly. They do have +1 weapons. A Dragoon also being produced, but it still might not be sufficient. You can see the Scourge splitting off, looking for an engagement. Landing again, and the Corsair fleet getting absolutely decimated. The Dragoon gone. That is going to be GG for Snow. And well played overall again from Soma, showing that on the weird maps at the very least, he's going to take victory. And we are even 3 games apiece, and it is going to be decided on Vermeer. And this is exactly what you'd hope for in a best of 7 between 2 incredible players like this. It coming down to the wire. Upper left-hand corner, we have Snow starting as the white Protoss. Bottom left-hand corner, Soma starting as the blue Zerg. Vermeer, a little bit more of a straight-up standard map, which potentially would favor Snow, as outside of Neo Sulfid, on the more stereotypical macro-oriented maps, Snow has secured victory. There's a lot of dark space on this map as well, which could favor Snow's early game harassment. On the weird maps, Soma seems to have, either through superior strategy or just Zerg favoritism on the maps themselves, been able to outmatch Snow. But here, on a map that is just skill versus skill, if you think back to game 1, potentially could mean Snow is able to secure the early game shenanigans, Zealots everywhere on the map, hamper Soma's early economy, and lead to a victory. Big statement here out of the best of 7. It looks like we are in fact seeing a 9-pool opener from Soma. Doesn't want to have to deal with potential early probe shenanigans. Soma also going to get the first scout with that Overlord in the forward position. Seeing a gateway opener once again from Snow. Been a staple for him. Extractor cancellation once again. So potentially Soma wanting to open up with early Zergling aggression. Snow going, unfortunately, for a for a clockwise scout, which means he's going to come across Soma's base dead last. So isn't going to know the spawning pool timing to be able to react early. Overlord going to finish. Also, if this Overlord's very, very careful about its approach, first of all, is going to have the scouting information, know where to send those Zerglings critically, and also won't have the counter information reveal. 6 Zerglings in construction, natural expansion being grabbed. So a smooth initial start to the game for Soma. Grabbing that extractor as well. Hasn't had to deal with probe harassment, hasn't had to deal with a lot on the field. Let's see if these Zerglings just walk up to the main, or if they're going to peel back to deal with the probe scout. Initial Zealot making its way across, unfortunately could get wiped out very rapidly. Second Zealot in production. Snow is walking up. Oh, this could be a quick one. depending. Second Zealot making its way back upon those Zerglings, but those Zerglings should be able to swarm it fairly easily. Two additional Zerglings being constructed. Probes blocking the ramp, now working on that gateway. That gateway has to be defended as well. 6 Zerglings versus 2 Zealots, with 2 more coming up to make the defense even. The Zerglings tapping away. A lot of early economic disruption here from Snow, as those probes have had to stay off the line. The Zealots trying to get the shots that they can. So early game advantage for Soma. See if the Zealots, once they have the numbers advantage, engage. Yeah, starting to press forward. The Zerglings still doing the Zealot trick, actually running behind the mineral lines. A forge being dropped to create a blockade. Zerglings still on both sides. So Zealots can't over-dedicate one location to the other. The gateway being peeled down in health. Another Zealot going to spawn momentarily. The Zealot trying to run away to buy some time. Still makes it back with just a sliver of health. Let's see if the Zerglings are able to sneak up and pick it off. 2 Zealots pushing these Zerglings back. The rest of the Zealots dealing with additional Zerglings flooding towards the front. This looks like it might be a repeat of Neo Sulfid. Gateway down. However, this time there's still 4 Zealots on the front. 5 Zerglings here in between. The probe was wiped out for Snow as it was scouting towards the main. Nexus trying to be dropped. A cannon warping in as well. The Zealots surrounding it with that probe defense. Snow doing a great job of macroing still behind this. He's up to 20 workers. So if he can secure this natural expansion, he'll be in a good economic lead in the mid game. This was a lot of Zergling production out of Soma. He's still sitting at 8 drones and has produced a lot of Zerglings otherwise. So Soma able to defend, still losing a few probes here and there, but with a gigantic worker lead, double the worker count now at the 4-minute count. So Soma with a solid assault, but not able to secure the victory with the early game Zergling harassment. More Zerglings making the way out. Tech to lair, but this potentially puts Soma all in the mid game. The Zergling at least going to be able to scout and create some harassment. Snow defending with those probes. Incredible probe micro on his part. Zergling trying to pick off stragglers. I think Soma realizing that at this stage, if the Zealots moved out, he doesn't have sufficient defense. So keeping Zerglings here in the high ground to be an early warning system. Dropping the Spire after layer. I think he's hoping... So the cybernetic score is about halfway finished here. If Soma does, with all of the early harassment, open up a timing where he's going to have superior Mutalisk counts out and no defensive cannons here in the main, which the Zergling will be able to spot, could open up a win condition for him. Snow still in the window where you can get that initial Corsair out. Let's see if he plops the gateway down at the main or the natural expansion. Zergling's still trying to harass here at the main. Now is wiped out. The Zealots have marched up, engaged those Zerglings. Across that left-hand spoke, it looks like they're just going to try to walk across and buy time now, as quickly cleared out by the Zerglings. The 2 cannons still should be sufficient to defend that front. The Stargate now warping in. The Spire finishing, however. And this is going to be 5 Mutalisks in the air. No cannons. Well, okay, there's a defensive cannon from Snow, recognizing the necessity of a defensive cannon at the natural expansion as well. Soma at half the worker count currently of Snow. But this is as Mutalisks are taking flight, and it is going to be a complement of 5. With a decent amount of micro, might be able to create a victory condition for himself. A Dragoon trying to push those Zerglings away. The Dragoon, a necessity maybe to provide some support against the Mutalisk play. Cannon does cover the Nexus here. 2 cannons in the main. Corsair about halfway finished. The Mutalisks, however, already making their way to location. Soma needs to have an incredible Mutalisk harass to even up the worker count. Looks like the probe's not even going to bother at the main, or at the natural, I should say. Corsair moving out. Probes huddled around the cannons just in case the Zerglings shot the line, because between the Mutalisks and the Zerglings they might have been able to breach there. Soma, with this, able to keep that natural expansion from mining, which will help mitigate that worker disadvantage. Still wanting to get more shots here at the natural, moving out a drone to grab his third at the 6 o'clock location. Does need to drone up behind this. Corsair microed away from that Scourge, another cannon being dropped to try to reestablish position at that natural. Soma finding a way to claw his way back into this match, but still has more work to do. 2 Dragoons, 2 Corsair as an additional cannon being plopped down, spending a lot of resources and slowing Snow down, which potentially is going to allow him to do a bit of catch up here. But no, never mind. Rather than opting to drone up, he is just building a lot of Mulisks as a follow-up. Wants to end this with the air game. 3 Corsair, 4 cannons down at the natural, +1 weapons. Going to finish 2 Dragoons right there as well. Cycling around, maybe can go for an assault. There are 3 cannons at the main. The Scourge could be critical here as well. First cannon down. The Scourge able to blockade those Corsair away. The Dragoons are on location, but not attacking those Scourge. 2 more cannons being placed. The Dragoon, 1 Dragoon down, 1 Dragoon remaining, and Soma now opening up the probe line. Corsair is able to get some assault, but more Mulisks making their way in. Critical game moments here. 4 Scourge blockading those Corsair away, and the probe's now completely exposed. Shield battery to help with those Corsair. Now they're just going to go ahead. They're just not even going to bother with the main. Now moving to the natural expansion. 6 o'clock location up. The Zealots walking the way across. They're going to meet some Zerglings and Mulisks there. The Scourge getting wiped out by... Sorry, the Corsair getting wiped out by the Scourge there. The shield battery is down. And it looks like Soma might have done it. Picking away at more infrastructure. Able to wipe out yet another cannon. Corsair is starting to dwindle in numbers. 6 remain versus 5 Corsairs. Snow might have opened up an opportunity. It depends on how well he micros against the Scourge that are remaining. Scourge trying to trail down. Dragoon moving up as well. Another landed attack. The Mutalisk count regrowing. Soma refusing to build drones here. Still sticking with the air fleet. Full control group of Mutalisks versus 5 Corsair. Again, engaging at the main. And again, going to be able to assault shield batteries and cannons in no man's land. 6 o'clock base has a few drones being built there, but it's still 31 versus 18. The Mutalisks now retreating, a lot of damage done. Soma not finished yet. However, a cannon and a shield battery have been established in between, which means it's going to be up to those Scourge to land on those Corsair. The cannon no longer a protective option. The probe's getting picked off as they're trying to regroup at the main. The Corsairs again being chased off by those Scourge. 2 more cannons and a Templar Archives being built in between. A Zealot able to make it all the way into the main, though. Drones trying to defend against that. An additional hatchery being planted. The Mutalisks drawing back, it looks like. 6 o'clock starting to saturate. The worker count actually all of a sudden even at the 11-minute mark. We do have a Hydralisk Den as well. I don't know if Lurker Tech was researched in between point A and point B. I'm going to assume not. A Dark Templar in production. This could be an absolute hero. Dark Templar. There's no Overlord here at the 6 o'clock location. There is Overlord coverage at the natural, but not a huge SimCity there. The Mutalisks swing back around. We do have some cannons being established. That Corsair fleet up to a 7 account. No +1 weapons, keep in mind. The Mutalisks re-engaging at the main, able to pick off some probes across that gas line. The Corsair diving in. Someone wants to fight it, able to pick off a single Corsair. The Dark Templar making its way to the 6 o'clock. This could be a huge game-adjusting maneuver. As Soma distracted at the main, the Dark Templar, however, backing back out. Now making its path to the 6 o'clock, and Overlord is here, and 2 Hydralisks are going to spawn. With a bit of micro, this is going to be critical moments here. The bit of micro, no, Snow doesn't like what he sees just in the nick of time. 5 worker lead for Snow, down a base, however. High Templar starting to take the field. He has no attack army to speak of, trying to drop additional gateways. We'll see if the gateways even hold. As Soma starting to field an attack force towards the front. We got 1 High Templar, 2 Zealots, and a Dark Templar potentially. No Overlord nearby, so that Dark Templar might be the hero that defends the front. Speed is a ways away. Dark Templar re-engaging. The Hydralisks on the front. Dark Templar saves the day. Big attack force still out for Soma. Snow staying alive by the skin of his teeth here. Another gateway down. A lot of cannon protected. Going for the gateway flood now. An Overlord slowly making its way up. The Corsair are going to have to risk their lives to hit that. Overlord speed going to finish. And I assume as soon as it's finished, Soma with the supply lead going to sneak right back in. Dark Templar has to be careful now. A few more Zealots to provide some support. I assume Sidestorm's going to be here. There needs to be a gigantic Sidestorm. +1 armor going to finish, which is going to be a sizable up. Well, is it? No, I don't think it finished. No, it does not finish. More High Templar grouping up to keep Snow alive. Robotics facility at the natural. Additional cannons to defend the natural. Soma still with the supply lead, in firm control of this match all of a sudden. About economically even. Huge attack force. Snow clinging on to life, though. Range being upgraded. Another forge being plopped down at the main. Lurker aspect being researched. Problem for Snow is Soma can very easily transition this into a lurker contain. If he doesn't clear this front. Moving out, going to take out that Overlord so that Dark Templar is a sufficient threat to drive the Hydralisks away. Negating a bit of the possibility of that front door contain. The Mutalisks remaining mostly silent at this stage of the match. We've got 6 hatcheries out and active for Soma. Mostly creating an attack force, I believe. So Lurker Tech finished. Curious if he's going to go swing right back around. Snow clearing out a potential third for himself. Snow has a sufficient enough, has stabilized, has a sufficient enough attack force potentially to walk out as soon as he is an observer to grab that third. And Soma grabbing the fourth. I have to say, incredible play on Snow's part to survive up to this stage of the match. Incredible. Bottom right in corner, Zealot blockading a potential additional base at that location. Lurkers, however, scrambling towards the front. However, in a soft contain situation rather than a contain outside Snow's natural. Corsair able to wipe out Overlord in open field. Snow still behind in supply, so has some work to do. But it is doable from here. Observer there to spot High Templar. Forced to expend some Sidestorm, which is going to draw those forces back. Some Sidestorm in retreat. You can see those High Templar being targeted heavily. Of course, they're spotting that attack force as that third Nexus coming online. Critical moments here. If Soma's able to assault that third and force a cancellation here as he's grabbing his fourth, that would be an advantage to him mid-game. The Lurkers taking heavy fire. Great Sidestorm. More Hydralisks coming in to support in large numbers. The Observer not under threat. But it is too much from Soma. Gonna draw. It looks like now that Observer getting picked off, and the Dragoons being forced back towards that natural expansion. A swarm of Hydralisks now at that natural, gonna make their way up to try to assault that third base. The cannon still morphing. Corsair holding short. I think they engaged the Mutalisks in between, but now Hydralisks swarming that Nexus. High Templar engaging the reinforcements as they're making their way across. A Zealot was able to make it into the fourth out of nowhere and at least able to create some damage there. The Mutalisks re-engaging, going to pick off all the High Templar as potentially their last motion, but at least able to, let's see if they go move and clean this up. But after that exchange, Soma able to wipe out Snow's third, force him back to 2 bases, which feels like he's been on kind of a half a base for a lot of this match. Fourth base has been reestablished. That Zealot was able to get a lot of work done and stymieing some of that economy, but Snow potentially in a situation where he needs to maybe assault one of these bases and take a hatchery out. As Soma's growing, has superior supply, and is whittling his army down. Army trying to retreat to the right. Hydralisks on the hunt. They do have +1 weapons. It looks like they're going to retreat all the way up to the high ground on that right-hand side to try to make it a little bit more difficult to wipe this attack force out. Probe sneaking right back out, trying to grab this expansion. Very vulnerable position. The Mutalisks, let's see if they swing around. That Overlord does in fact spot that. High Templar exposed once again. Dropping Psystorm, that time catching some of the Mutalisks, able to whittle that attack force. It looks like the Hydralisks drawing back. Snow trying to mirror the army. Yeah, just if the Hydralisks move away, move to the high ground, assault them. But it looks like they're going to draw back. There's a big attack force of Lurkers and Hydralisks on that western spoke, maybe wanting to get another shot at that third. Minimal saturation at Soma's fourth, but he does have a lot of workers. Filtering in reinforcements, now going for the hard contain. Lurkers spreading out across that natural. Good Psystorms on the Hydralisks to the right, but the Lurkers slowly moving forward, able to create a big gap, and that's GG from Snow. And so with that, Soma takes the final match on Vermeer. It's exactly what you want out of a best of 7 between these two. Proves that he's still a big Boley Zerg on the block, but by a very thin margin. Incredible airplay in that final match. Hope you guys enjoyed the series overall. Thank you for listening.